Yep, a scared daggum potato in the headlights. He's just like, I don't know, his face looks like a potato. His head looks like a potato. Actually, right there, he looks kind of like George W. Bush. I don't know. I wonder if they're related. Because you know how, like, they would talk about how Al Gore and George W. Bush and Prince Charles were all related. And somehow Al Gore looked like the missing link between the two. That's kind of how, I don't know. But who does he look like? Oh my God. Wait, he looks like somebody else too. It'll come to me in a minute. But he just has like the biggest eyes. I feel like he's had his face pulled back about 1,000,000 times too. Like he's had plastic surgery and it's not very good and it didn't help very much. But anyway, Elizabeth Warren's opening line was perfect. And in a lot of ways, even though I'm not a big fan of hers, especially after what she did to Bernie throwing him under the bus when his numbers got greater, she was the star of the debate last night. She almost had, I would say, the most perfect performance. Although I think they were all pretty good, except for except for Mike Bloomberg. But the way she started off the debate by saying, I'm going to name you like a Republican politician who calls women fat pigs and dog-faced lesbians, and that's Mike Bloomberg. Look at him. Is he looking at her cleavage? Look at that. Oh, wait. You can't see the cleavage. What is she wearing, actually? It kind of looks like she's wearing a black t-shirt with a maroon overshirt over it, but I'm sure it's a jacket. Anyway, it looked good. That's a good color on her. But that was like so perfect, and that started off the debates just spectacularly. And Mike Bloomberg was just stammering and stuttering all over the place, looking like a potato in the headlights. Because, I mean, deers are too cute. He wouldn't look like a deer in the headlight. They're too beautiful of an animal, let's face it. And so he got somewhat better at the end, which isn't saying much. But they were going after him, man. And Bernie was just awesome. Like, Bernie made my favorite point ever that I was so bummed that he didn't make in, like, the last 2 debates. But I heard him talking with Anderson Cooper. And he was doing an interview with Anderson Cooper. And Anderson Cooper asked him the question again. You know, what are people going to say? You know, you're running as a socialist. He's not running as a socialist. He's running as a social democrat. And how do you expect people would react to that? And so on and so forth. And Bernie said to him, and it's the same thing he said to Mike Bloomberg when Mike Bloomberg accused him of being a socialist and a communist. And everybody groaned rather than laughed or clapped because everybody's so tired of the argument. Anyway, not everybody, but a lot of people. He just basically said, Anderson, there's already socialism in this country. Socialism for the rich people. So, yeah, I mean, I just love that. I was like, yes, when he said that. Because I just think it's so poignant and it's just something that's just so long overdue. And in my mind, it's one of the most important arguments of the debates. So that said, I think everybody did well. I wish I could say the same about what I think of all their characters. Of course, as we well know, Elizabeth Warren is very likable, but she did attack Bernie and call him a sexist, which we know cannot be true. 3D reality contests this, as Bernie was one of the highest supporters of Hillary Clinton, even though he was cheated out of the DNC nomination last year, allegedly. Although, after all the shenanigans, it's pretty evident that something funny was going on, even if he wasn't cheated as handily as we think. But he still supported Hillary 40-fold in all of her conventions, more than Hillary supported Barack Obama. And Hillary won the popular vote. So for Elizabeth Warren to have said, oh, well, he said that a woman couldn't be president, Bernie's already 3D reality, 3D past reality, if you get in a time machine, that's already debunked that notion. And Bernie was very good at defending himself. I'm kind of, speaking of a time machine, I'm backtracking a little bit. And just, things she's flip-flopped on just a little bit, and just her language on Medicare for all. She just doesn't seem as gung-ho about it. But she still does seem pretty gung-ho about going after Wall Street and the plutocracy and so on and so forth, even though I believe she does have 6 billionaires supporting her. So, again, she's not totally pure, and, I mean, I don't care. Like, I hate liberal purity tests in terms of playing with identity politics and so on and so forth. But when you're talking about something so important as running a clean campaign in terms of money and really being a politician of the people, by the people, and for the people, I don't think I'm out of line being uncomfortable about her 6 billionaire donors. But in any case, she was really good. And I wanted to like her. Like, I wanted her to be my second choice, but now it's just hard for me to take her so seriously because of all of these flip-flops and just stabbing Bernie in the back. And character counts on all counts. If we're going to trust her with the American people, we've got to trust her with her alleged friend. And it's just sad. And it's kind of funny, too, because she doesn't even acknowledge Bernie on stage anymore, which might not be a totally bad thing. She might have learned something from the last debates, which, by the way, I don't think the last debates were Bernie's best performance, although I never think he gives a bad performance, but he didn't hit home some of the points. And then there was a certain point at the last set of debates where Joe's like, Bernie hasn't told you how he's going to pay for his health care yet. And I know what the numbers are, at least the base numbers. And Bernie had the opportunity to answer. And I think he got so caught up and just being really fired up about, hey, you're going to pay less in premiums and deductibles and so on and so forth, that he forgot to give the numbers, which, of course, if you're paid $29,000, you pay no additional taxes. And then above $29,000 a year, it starts at 4%. And of course, they're going to tax the rich more, but they almost never say that in the same breath, because Bernie's got a really interesting job. It's like, we all know he's going to tax the rich more, but he doesn't always say it in the same fell swoop, because I think on the one hand, he wants to remind us that, yes, I'm going to tax everybody more. And then in other categories, he'll talk about taxing the rich more. And he's going to. Bernie's wealth tax is, if you make over $10 million a year, which is more than comfortable, you would be taxed at a 52% rate. And then Elizabeth Warren's is a little bit more comfortable. It's if you make over $50 million a year, you get taxed like about 20%. Or is it 2%? Shoot, let me double check. Yeah, what I have here is 20%, but only after the first 50 million. So, I mean, that sounds doable. That's a lot. But in any case, I loved that he answered that they talked stats, although I think Pete Buttigieg made Bernie talk stats. And they also talked about getting the medical insurance companies off people's backs. I mean, that's the business incentive middleman. That's what incentivizes sickness. These people don't want you healthy. They want to charge you an arm and a leg, or not charge you at all. And if you can't go to the hospital, oh well. And that's what Bernie means when he talks about how cruel everything is. So then you had Joe Biden. I like some of his energy policy questions about Nevada. Then Bloomberg had to come in and stink it up and tell us why it couldn't happen and why fracking still should continue and blah, blah, blah. Republican. And then Pete, I always think Pete does a good job in debates, even though I know a lot of people don't like him. And of course, Iowa. I want to say Iowa because they were just in Iowa for the caucuses, but it's Indiana. I get all those I states confused. And then, of course, oh my God, it's so late here. So concerning the South Bend, Indiana chief of police debacle, and the possible racism there that always makes me uncomfortable. It's nothing that you can prove. It's a weird story. I never quite understood, well, why are these conversations being recorded? It almost sounds staged, but Pete's kind of staged, and I've seen video of him. The thing I don't like about Pete is that he seems so perfect on camera. And that's the likable portion of him. Like, if I didn't know any better, I would totally like Pete Buttigieg. But I've seen videos of him where people come up to him and challenge him and ask him questions on things. And then they're just like, oh, well, I can't support that. I can't support you. And then he's just like, well, I don't need your vote anyway. Amy Klobuchar, man, though. Oh, my God. Like, I actually always like her in debates, even though there's been stories going on for years that she's abusive to her staff and she's mean with her staff. And I could totally see that too, because she's just got this thing about her that you would not want to make her mad. But it's so funny how she and Pete argue like an aunt and uncle. I was going to say an old married couple, but that wouldn't actually be possible. pertaining to certain things. But it just cracked me up. They're always arguing. And then towards the end of the debate, she kept trying to cut into everybody's freaking conversation. I think she talked most during the debate. Actually, I would be curious to know. I don't even know how much Bernie talked during the debate. I don't think he talked much at all. I can't wait to see those results. But I was just like, oh my God, Amy, give it up. It's like she was on The Bachelorette. She was on not The Bachelorette, unless we're talking like the lesbian version, but it's like she was on The Bachelor, like trying to get time in with The Bachelor every 2 seconds. May I say something? May I say something? But the most annoying moment, I think this was actually Amy's worst debate, because at least in the debate before, she'd had folksy stories and anecdotes and stuff, and they don't bother me all that much. Actually, I kind of like them because they just make sense. They're kind of like she does the twist and the old switcheroo at the end of it. I think it was the story about FDR. I want to say it was FDR, and somebody, like a worker, was crying, and somebody came up to him and they said, oh, did you know the president? And he's like, no, but he knew me. See, I like those stories. It's a clever twist of a phrase. But anyway, what I hated so much was that when they questioned her about not knowing the name of the president of Mexico, Lopez Obrador, she said, she basically lied. She lied about being ignorant. Essentially, what happened was, so she had this interview with Telemundo, and I saw the Telemundo interview, so I know she was lying. Because she was saying she forgot the president of Mexico, like she forgot his name. She could tell you about his politics, sort of, but she forgot his name. And then, but I watched that interview, and they asked her 6 times, like, oh, but who's the president? Who's the Mexican president? She couldn't tell him. And then she actually was berated a little bit by the interviewer, like, oh, you really should know this stuff, and we're at Telemundo, and that's why we're asking. But she didn't forget. She didn't know, and the mere fact that she humble bragged about humble bragging all the while being honest about being dishonest in her answer just made my skin crawl. So, yep. But I would say the 2 winners of last night's debate were Elizabeth Warren for her just go-getter attitude towards Bloomberg, and she was indefatigable. Like, she did not tire the whole debate. I can't say the same thing for Biden. And then Bernie, oh my God. He did that. He talked about the socialism for rich people, which is so key. And then at the end, he ended the debate on his signature move, which was, the revolution never starts from the top down. It goes from the bottom up. Oh my God, so perfect. All right, peace out.